So let's do the chanting. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Dudayambi Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dudayambi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dudayambi Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Tatayambi Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Tatayambi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Tatayambi Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Hayata Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Soha. So now get yourself ready for meditation. Nice comfortable position, upright if possible. And we will release the tension from the body. All the way from the tips of the toes to the shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, and up again to the top of your head. You know, I think we all need to be more kind to ourselves. And one way to do this is to practice meditation, including releasing the tension from the body, including improving our concentration by focusing on a meditation object, in this case, the breath, and also filling ourselves with loving kindness and then radiating it outwards to all beings. Very simple ways to be kind to ourselves. So now let's take a few moments to release this tension from the body. When you are ready, bring your focus now to your breathing, starting at the tip of your nose as you breathe in your nose, all the way into your lungs, and then back out your nose again. It's all you have to do right now is focus on your breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. If you choose to, you can also count the breaths from 1 to 10. But if you lose focus on your breath, on the way to counting to 10, let's say at 4 or 5 or something, then go back to 1. Don't count past 10 because we don't want the counting to be the focus. Breathing in, breathing out. If thoughts arise or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Also, don't try to forcefully push it away or deny it even. Just let it go naturally by replacing the mind back onto your breath. And if your mind becomes dull and sleepy, wake it up a little bit by focusing more brightly on the breath. Practicing this way helps the refocusing on your breath is the antidote for both the agitated, overly busy mind, as well as the dull and sleepy mind. So let's practice like this for a few minutes in silence. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself for engaging in this short session and fill yourself with loving kindness. With so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, family and friends. And now also to strangers. And to those you may regard as difficult or irritating, may even regard them as enemies. May all of these people have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be peaceful. Now gradually further and further radiate this loving kindness to now include all of the living beings around your immediate area, whether they live on the land, under the land, in the waters, fly through the air. And gradually radiate further and further your loving kindness throughout your whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout the whole world, throughout your whole country, I should say. And other countries throughout the whole world. Like a tidal wave of loving kindness, radiating further and further with great momentum, now throughout the whole solar system. In the whole galaxy. In the whole universe and beyond. Have your loving kindness radiate throughout infinite space. While at the same time be present here and now to recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. Sorry for my little mistake then, but that's okay, isn't it? Anyway, so as you know, we're talking about and just about wrapping up our commentary on the 6 paramitas: generosity, morality, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. And we've already spoken about the aspects of wisdom. And I mentioned to you last week that I decided to give you like an overview. It's not really a commentary because it'd take a long time to do that right now. We can have that at some time in the future. But like an overview of the 12 links of dependent origination, or Paticca Samutpada, and also the Heart Sutra. That's in short. In long, it's the Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra, or the heart of the perfection of wisdom scripture, teaching on emptiness, the wisdom, Prajna Paramita, perfection of wisdom. I'm quite sweaty today. It's quite humid here. We had a lot of rain last night, which was really nice. First time for a while. Cooled it down a little bit, but it's actually got quite steamy in the afternoon. And my little room here is quite hot. I should have aired it out a little bit earlier. So anyway, maybe I should chant them first. So I'll chant the formula for the 12 links of dependent origination in English. And then I'll chant the Heart Sutra as well. And we'll see how far we get into it today. We could finish it, or maybe not. And really have a look, really want you to review the previous classes as well on this subject. We utilize the wisdom of hearing, the wisdom of contemplation, and the wisdom of meditation. And I gave you a bunch of different examples, as well as different aspects of the Dharma and the Buddha's teachings and reality and so forth to contemplate on and to realize the empty nature, even if it's only conceptual realization right now, and try your best to go beyond the dualistic thinking. So review those classes, very important. So I don't have to repeat myself now, reiterate again and again. Okay, so Bodhicitta Samudpada, interdependent origination. Dependent on ignorance is karmic formations. Dependent on karmic formations is consciousness. Dependent on consciousness is name and form. Dependent on name and form are the 6 sense bases. Dependent on the 6 sense bases is contact. Dependent on contact is feeling. Dependent on feeling is desire. Dependent on desire is clinging. Dependent on clinging is becoming. Dependent on becoming is birth. Dependent on birth is old age, sickness, death, sorrow, grief, lamentation, pain, despair, and a whole great mass of suffering. But with the ceasing of this ignorance, all karmic formations cease. With the ceasing of karmic formations, consciousness ceases. With the ceasing of consciousness, name and form cease. With the ceasing of name and form, the 6 sense bases cease. With the ceasing of the 6 sense bases, contact ceases. With the ceasing of contact, feeling ceases. With the ceasing of feeling, desire ceases. With the ceasing of desire, clinging ceases. With the ceasing of clinging, becoming ceases. With the ceasing of becoming, birth ceases. With the ceasing of birth, old age, sickness, death, sorrow, grief, lamentation, pain, despair, and a whole great mass of suffering come to cease. Therefore, with the ceasing of this ignorance, all suffering ceases. Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra, the heart of the perfection of wisdom scripture. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply in Prajna Paramita, perceive that all 5 skandhas are empty, thus transcending suffering and distress. Sariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. Feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness are likewise like this. Sariputra, all dharmas are fundamentally emptiness. No birth, no death, nothing is pure, nothing is defiled, nothing increases or decreases. Hence in emptiness there are no forms, no feelings, no thoughts, no impulses, no consciousness, no I, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no tasting, no touching, no thinking, no realm of vision, up to and including no realm of thought. No ignorance and no end of ignorance, up to and including no old age and death, and no end to old age and death. No suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no wisdom, no attainment. Indeed, there is nothing to be attained. The Bodhisattva depends on Prajna Paramita with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear. Far beyond elusive thinking, they finally awaken to complete nirvana, all Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Depend on Prajna Paramita and attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that the Prajna Paramita Dharani is the highest Dharani, the brightest Dharani, the peerless Dharani, the supreme Dharani, which completely ends all suffering. Know this is truth and do not doubt. So proclaim the Prajna Paramita Dharani, proclaim this Dharani and declare. Tayatang gate gate para samgate bodhi soha. So I did quite fast there because we don't have a lot of time as well. I didn't want to take up too much time doing more chanting. I think we have maybe about 17 minutes left or something. So anyway, so the formula for interdependent origination it can actually be explained over 3 lifetimes or more, but it also can be explained in relation to each moment, each nano moment. And it is also a great way for us to, when we contemplate this, we can get to understand the law of karma, of cause and effect. And as mentioned in previous classes, realize the emptiness of the cause, the emptiness of the effect, and the emptiness of them together as well. They are all interdependent. So each aspect of the 12 links is dependent upon the other ones. That's why they're called links, you know. And quite often the artistic depiction of this is like a wheel, or like a circle, a cycle, also representing cyclic existence, samsara. Okay, so obviously dependent on ignorance, karmic formations arise. Karmic formations, that means intentions, and it's also the 4th of the 5 skandhas or aggregates. So we create karma this way. So the formation of karma comes into play. Cause and effect comes into play. All right. So because of our ignorance, we are continuously creating this karma, which then is imprinted in our consciousness, which is the 3rd link. Okay. So dependent on ignorance is karmic formation, or are karmic formations. Dependent on karmic formations is consciousness. Then through this consciousness, and then the ripening of our actions, our previous karma into this time now, we have name and form. So name and form means the 5 skandhas. Okay, so the 5 aggregates of our physicality and mentality. And dependent upon name and form are the 6 sense bases. So our 6 senses. Dependent on the 6 senses is contact, to come into contact with the sense objects. And then the consciousness at that time as well, they're having a conscious contact. And then dependent on contact are feelings. Obviously, we have some sort of mental feelings, pleasurable, unpleasant, or neutral. Dependent upon feelings is desire. We desire something. If we find something pleasing, we want it. If we find something unpleasant or repulsive, we don't want it. That's also a desire. And also we have the neutral and the reaction to that as well. So then dependent on desire is clinging. This is now like a more intense desire, wanting to hang on to something. As you see it, let's say, for instance, the attachment to I or the me, thinking that I am a separate being, that I am not empty, obviously. The clinging like this to this I, this me, as opposed to the other. And then clinging to the concept of other as well. Then because of this clinging, this gives rise to becoming, where things are always changing, always becoming something else. And this also can be translated as existence, continuing the cycle of existence and into future lives as well, okay? So basically, this becoming, everything's becoming something else. So let's say, for instance, we are the being that we are in this life here and now. And then through our karma, through all of this cycle, we create another existence, okay, by clinging to existence. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Like I said, this is an overview. This is not real detailed commentary. Something for you to mentally chew on, And also, like I said, to get to give ourselves the opportunity to understand this wisdom of emptiness better. And so then this becoming, dependent on becoming, is birth. So we are our birth. This can also be birth of clinging, even more clinging to your being, yourself. It can be a birth, as in next future lifetime. It can be a birth of a thought, birth of a moment, and so forth, okay? So this becoming then gives rise to this birth. And then from this birth, it comes old age, sickness, death, sorrow, grief, lamentation, pain, despair, a whole great mass of suffering. So these 5 skandhas are a heap or a pile of suffering. Now, sorry to put it that way, okay? But we quite often, even if we're experiencing happiness, it doesn't last, okay? Because we've created the karma. Even if we create the good karma to experience extreme happiness, this comes and goes. Whatever rises, passes. Because of this, there is that. These are words of the Buddha, okay, in brief. And so then, of course, with the ceasing of the ignorance, we won't create karma. With the realization of emptiness, with the realization of shunyata, the emptiness of separate self, self-identity. When we realize this wisdom, there is no more ignorance. So when there is no more ignorance, then we don't create the karma. We don't have the karmic formations. So these cease. When that's the case, we don't give rise to this conditioned consciousness. That ceases also. Then we also don't give rise to name and form, or the 5 skandhas, our physicality and our mentality. When we don't give rise to that, when that ceases, then the 6 senses cease. 6 sense doors, we call them. They cease. Then, of course, when they cease, no contact, with no clinging contact with the sense objects, then no feeling, then, of course, no desire for something, desire to have something. Well, I think that somebody's mic just came on, so yeah, that's good. So so basically, sorry about the interruption there. So then, of course, when there's no desire, then no clinging, no becoming, no birth, no suffering, basically. Okay, so really important that we start to get to understand this interdependent origination. From a very simple standpoint, you can realize that everything is interdependent, interconnected. So no self, no other, that type. And then you can get into the deeper understanding of this. And I think that's very, very good, obviously. So basically, at the moment, we have this, everything's clinging and grasping onto something. Our mind is very myopic in that way, on a self. We need to open the mind. Another way of putting it, open the mind to reality and really be kind to yourself. That's why I started the class by saying, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself to allow this to happen and to put in a good effort in our practice to help ourselves to realize this and get closer to understanding the reality, okay? Because when the mind opens like this, all of our sense doors open up to experiencing everything fully, to realizing the supreme wisdom, to realizing the bodhicitta, so that's very important for us to do that. And now the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is, you could say it's almost like a summary of the longer versions of the Prajnaparamita, or perfection of wisdom scriptures. The longest one we have in existence today. Apparently there were longer ones in the past, but the longest one is 100,000 stanzas long, approximately. A stanza could be, maybe 4 lines, or it could be a couple of pages, depending on how much detail is there. So, like, for instance, the Diamond Sutra is 32 stanzas long. So some of the stanzas are reasonably short, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs. Other ones may be a little bit longer, maybe a couple of pages. And so you can see the different lengths. So, but think about that, 100,000 stanzas. Now, compressed, these teachings now are compressed into the Heart Sutra, and it covers everything. So that's very important for us to understand that. Sometimes some traditions believe the Heart Sutra is a sutra all by itself, and some other traditions believe it's like a summary within the longer version. And because actually in the longer version, it's mentioned twice. I can't remember which one, 25,000 or 12,000. I can't remember, but it's actually mentioned twice, like a summary in these scriptures. Okay. Anyway, so Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, the great Bodhisattva of great compassion, apparently was on a beach somewhere. Okay. Oh, I should mention this. The Tibetan version of this Heart Sutra actually has the prologue and the epilogue. So the setting up of the assembly and then the dispersing of the assembly. So the beginning, before what you heard me chant before, which comes from the Zen or Chan tradition, and Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese, Korean tradition. The Tibetan either have added later the prologue and the epilogue, or the Chinese version was shortened, which actually is within the spirit of the Heart Sutra, because then you get the main teachings. You still get the main teachings in both of them, okay? So don't be confused by that if you come across either one, all right? Anyway, so while you're listening to the teachings, try to keep yourself still, okay, as well, everybody. You'll be able to hear the teachings more clearly. And so I see a lot of movement happening on the screen. Anyway, so Avalokiteshvara apparently was sitting on a beach, looking at the oceans, and when he finally realized emptiness of self. So Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply in Prajnaparamita, perceived that all 5 skandhas are empty, thus transcending suffering and distress. So perceived that form, feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness are all empty of self-nature. Isn't that wonderful? Now the Buddha, in some traditions, believe that the Buddha gave this teaching. Other ones now believe that Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva gave the teaching. Okay, but don't be confused by that. The teaching is of more importance rather than those minor details that I just give you, even though they're big details in the big picture, but minor now. Okay, so Sariputra. Apparently, Sariputra would have asked the question. The Buddha's the disciple in wisdom, the Arahant, asked the question, you know, how does a bodhisattva practice, basically? And so Sariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness is exactly form. So this emptiness we're talking about and the interdependency are all not separate, okay? The Buddha nature also is not separate. And so in a sense, you could say the Buddha said form is emptiness, emptiness is form, but people didn't get it. So he had to repeat that and verify it again. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. They still didn't get it. So then he had to explain more and more and more, and then revealing the sutra like that. But the core teaching is in form is emptiness, emptiness is form. All right. Our feelings, our thoughts, impulses, and consciousness are likewise like this. So all of the 5 skandhas are all empty of self. Okay. Sariputra, everything is empty. Okay. That all existence is empty, whether it's yourself, whether it's the self of other, whether it's the other things, the tiniest dust mote within the universe, the largest physical body within the universe, and throughout infinite space. Everything, all of this is empty. Okay? There's no birth, there's no death. That doesn't just mean life now. Okay? That's no arising and no ceasing. That's really what that means. So no birth, no death, nothing is pure, and nothing is defiled. Nothing increases nor decreases. And what these last 3 statements are mentioning is the 3 doors to enlightenment of emptiness, signlessness, and wishlessness. Okay, so in a sense you say no birth, no death, that is emptiness. So nothing comes into being and nothing ceases being. Then also, nothing is pure, nothing is defiled or impure. Now I see we only have 3 minutes to go. So that is the signlessness, that we tend to put some sort of concept. Remember I mentioned the imputed nature of things? We tend to label things as pure or impure. But this emptiness is beyond all of that. That's why it's called paramita, beyond. All right, so this nothing is pure. Our impurity, or our purities, our so-called purities, actually the reality is beyond that. The wisdom is beyond that, because the purity we think about is the opposite of impurity or impure. Okay, so but this impurity or defilements we think we have, like I mentioned about the pane of glass, window, it's already clean. That represents your enlightened mind. These defilements don't exist ultimately. They only exist relatively in relation to cause and effect and conditions, okay? And then, of course, nothing increases or decreases. And this relates to wishlessness, you could say. We're wishing, let's say we're wishing to become more pure. We're wishing for enlightenment. But actually, to attain enlightenment, this door to enlightenment, to go through this door to enlightenment, we actually even have to give up wishing for this eventually. Okay, so Sariputra, all dharmas, in other words, all phenomena are fundamentally emptiness. No birth, no death, nothing is pure, nothing is defiled, nothing increases or decreases. And to prove this to you, think about that. You think something increases, goes up, right? But what happens if there's a decrease in the increase? What happens if something's decreasing and there's an increase in the decrease? It goes faster, doesn't it? So this concept of increasing or decreasing, increasing our good qualities or decreasing our faults, actually the emptiness teaching is beyond that. But we still have to, I use the metaphor of the window again, we still have to clean our window right now because we have lived so many lifetimes in not realizing this profound, vast truth, okay? So I think that'll do for now. I'll do the rest of the sutra next week. And I hope you've enjoyed today's class. I hope it hasn't been confusing or too rushed. Please study, practice, and share the Dharma to the best of your ability. Be kind to yourself, really. I rejoice in your goodness always. Take very good care of yourself and care for others. We are all interconnected, interdependent. There is no self, no other.